bought this little toy. This is going to help with a lot of projects around here. This is a serious machine. It's an 80-foot boom lift. It can lift 1,000 pounds and it weighs over 30,000 pounds. You could boom in. Still gonna need to go up though, I think. Yeah, you gotta go up. Some problems with the controls. Can you rotate more? So let's take a look at this lift. This thing weighs over 30,000 pounds. Of course, most of it's just intentional ballast here to offset the weight that's in the basket. It can lift 1,000 pounds at the end, except in some of the most extreme positions. So it's like a little mini crane at the same time, and it's an 80-foot lift. Tires are good. There's your engine. That's a gas engine, unfortunately. I would have preferred diesel. And then this is battery, and that's the intake. Here's your ground controls. And see, this shows you can do 1,000 pounds wherever it's blue. If you're extended out beyond, looks like 58 feet, you cut down to 750, and then you cut down to 500 all the way to its max. Like most things that I buy, it needs work. I'll show you what it's doing and we'll see what we can figure out here. I've run a lift similar to this years ago when I worked on a commercial framing crew, but I've never worked on one. Turn the ignition on, you push the start button. That's all I was doing. So battery voltage, oil pressure, the temperature gauge does not work, and it has 2,865 hours on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit lift up, and that should pick up the boom. Telescope the boom. Now it just stopped me, and I think it's because there's a safety interlock. These axles are supposed to be extended out, and I don't have them out yet because I'm going to be moving it around. So I think it'll only let you go that far. Up there. So check out the hydraulic cylinder on this. This thing is 8 inches across. That's about 200 millimeters. The hydraulic system operates at 3,200 psi. 8-inch diameter comes to 4-inch radius, which is 50 square inches. And multiply that by 3,200 pounds per square inch, and that is 160,000 pounds that this hydraulic cylinder can push. That's 73,000 kilograms. Wow. Something I researched before I even decided to buy this is like, how do you know an old lift is not going to kill you? Look at all these hydraulic lines. There's so many of them. If one of these hydraulic lines blows, won't the lift just drop you? And the answer is no. Clever engineers have made it so that the holes that the oil has to flow through are restricted. So even if one of the lines blows, the oil can only come out so fast. And that makes the lift move slow, which is fine. You don't want a lift moving really fast. But if one of these hoses fails, it will go down, but it's not going to go down at a catastrophic rate. Might be scary since you have no control, but it's not going to kill you. All the critical cylinders on this machine are made that way. Pretty cool. So all the functions work from the ground controls. The only caveat is that you cannot drive it from ground control because obviously you could run yourself over. You can only drive it from in the basket. So that's why the guy was having trouble unloading it, because in the basket, the lift function won't work. So if you want to change from ground control to platform control, you just throw that switch. See, once it's on platform, none of these things are going to do anything. Got your lanyard on? Yeah, me too. So there's a pedal down at the bottom, and when I step on that, the engine should throttle up. And it does. So now when I do the main lift, it's this control here, but when I go to lift up, nothing. If I mess with some of the controls, sometimes I can get it to lift up. Like I'll turn engine speed down. There, now I go up. It's actually working pretty well right now. Now, the good news is every time I've done it, the down works. Because I don't really want to go up and get stranded. I have a feeling that there's a mechanism inside here. I think it's a potentiometer, and I think that's probably gone bad. It probably needs to be replaced. Let's see how high I can get it to go. See there, it tried to go and then it didn't. Very jerky going up. There, it just stopped. It doesn't want to go any higher. It's like it's trying, but it... Now I hit the engine speed and it goes. So I have a short or something in the wiring up here. You'll also notice when I hit engine speed, it doesn't do anything to the engine speed. Let's rotate. Oop. That's rotating the basket. I need to learn the controls on this thing. Let's rotate the lift. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it just stopped. It won't go any further than that. So we'll go back down. Which for the first time is a little spotty. That would stink. I'd have to crawl down the beam to get down from here. So should I tell you guys what I paid for this machine? Yeah, I'll tell you at some point in this video. What do you guys think? What is this worth? These things cost an awful lot new. All right, let's drive this thing up to the shop and see what we can figure out. Tires on this are foam filled. That's a screw or something in the tire. And I love that. I mean, could you imagine if you were up on the platform 80 feet in the air and one of these tires blows out and the thing shifts? It's only, you know, maybe 6 inches that it would drop right there, but what it would do up on the tower would be a very different story. Houston, we have a problem. I knew there was a hydraulic leak somewhere, but it had not been apparent until now. It's all hydraulic oil coming out of this. And I think in order to get a good look in there, I'm going to need to take that off, which means extending the axles. Something I wanted to do anyway. I knew there was a hydraulic leak because he had refilled the oil when I went to look at it, and it was on full, and now it's less than full and everything's retracted, so it had to go somewhere. The axles need to be lifted in order to extend them, but you just use the boom to do this. Telescope out a little bit, push down against the ground, and jack up the wheels. This gives me confidence in the structure of the machine since the base of this thing weighs about 30,000 pounds and I'm jacking up half of it, using the boom as a lever. So in order to put the axles out, you have to move this valve right here. Steer is on the left, right for axles. That will do what we're about to do. Now when I hit the steer function, rather than steering, it extends the axles. Alright, so now those axles are locked out. But let's get the other side out. To do that, I gotta swing the thing all the way around. The axle set indicator is still not on. The machine does not think the axles are extended. I think that's my main problem right now, because when the axles aren't set, it's going to limit many functions on the machine, and obviously it won't allow you to telescope the boom. So I need to fix that. Now, as far as it not saying that the axles are locked, this pin is broken and it's not all the way down in there. And it's possible, let me show you one that's correct. So here's a good pin. And you can see it's pretty long. The one that's in there broke off like here, and this is sticking down in there, which is not as long. It's a slim chance, but I'm hopeful. Maybe it needs a new pin anyway, because you know, I don't even know if that pin's reaching far enough to truly lock the axle. So I'm going to make a new pin. I'm hoping, and I know this is a long shot, that when you put that down in there, it's pushing a button of some kind, telling the machine that the axle is locked. So let's make a new pin and cross our fingers and see if that fixes our problem. Hey, that's 3/4. I have some 3/4. And there's a bend in there. It's kind of hard to measure precisely, but 5 inches to partway through the bend, 3 inches to partway through the bend, a little extra. 9 inches ought to do it. This is 4.5 inches of straight. So what I've done, marked 4.5 inches of straight, clamped it in the vise, and then I put a stop in so that if I just put that to the stop and then close the vise, I'm in the right spot. Because I need to get this up to red hot. I'm not going to have a mark to go by. Alright, so here we are. Mine's longer that way, but that way really doesn't matter, and it doesn't interfere with anything, so I'm just going to leave it. I could cut it off, but whatever. Alright, here's the old broken pin, and the new pin. Goes right in, lock it in place. That's better. So this is supposed to light up when the axles are set, and even with the new pin, it's not lighting up like I expected. So that was not the problem. Let's tackle this hydraulic leak. Okay, I'll do my best to show you, but it's not exactly easy to film in there. It's pretty much open inside there's a hydraulic cylinder, a bunch of hydraulic lines. This is something that I knew was wrong with the machine, so I'm suspicious of this side, but let me show you the good side. There's a hydraulic motor that runs each wheel. So it's four-wheel drive normally. And here's that motor and then the hoses that go with it. You can see it a little better in this access panel, and you can see that there's a bunch of oil and crud underneath. Now, it looks like the oil's been leaking out right there. The concrete is sloped this way. So any oil that's anywhere inside of there is going to leak out here. So even though I see the oil here, doesn't mean it's coming from this side. Now, he told me when I bought it that this motor was bad and had been disconnected. Now, I don't really know what happened to it. It looks like some parts are actually missing. There's a splined shaft there that probably mates with that and goes up inside there, where you can see another shaft. I don't see any obvious leaks right here, but I'm hoping, because I can't get my head in there, I'm hoping that right now you guys can see it, because I can't. Here we are from the other side. Let me pause here for just a second. Recognize this? This is the bottom of a pin, and it's pushing on a switch. How about that? I don't see any obvious leaks though. Right here we're going into the middle of the axle area. See, this is all nice and dry. It's inside there where all the oil is. I set up a camera inside and then drove the machine back and forth to see if that would help find the leak. I also did the same thing with the axle extend function, and that did not help me find any leaks. But it is kind of cool to see the axles extend from the inside. So finding the source of this hydraulic leak is turning out to be quite a challenge. I really suspect it's over here, but I don't see where it's coming from. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash this out, degrease everything, spray it out real good so that there isn't oil all over the place, and then I should be able to see where it's originating from. With it like it is, I can't tell. All right, I won the lottery on this one. Cleaning up the inside to try to locate the leak, I found this, and checking the schematics, the thing that broke is not the motor. He told me it was the motor. I think the motor's fine. It spins, it doesn't leak. There's a brake assembly here. How that works is it's basically a spring brake. When there's no hydraulic pressure on this system, it locks the wheel. And when you want to move the unit with the motor, you send hydraulic pressure to this line, which unlocks the brakes. Well, this line was just sitting down here behind there and capped. Just sitting here overnight. There's a puddle of oil and oil leaking out of it. Like, that is the absolute easiest fix for a hydraulic leak ever. Probably I just need to tighten the cap. Oh yeah, that was loose. I'm gonna play the lottery today. Tighten that down and I'll clean that up. We'll check back and see if any more oil's coming out of it. That is freaking awesome. So you remember what I was saying about this pin possibly pushing a switch? Well, that's what I was just showing you. There is a switch there, but it's broken. Probably got broken when the pin got broken, come to think of it. Machine doesn't know that the axles are set, so it's limiting a bunch of functions. I think that's my main issue. It's down in this hole here. I'm gonna get under here somehow and get that switch off of there. This is going to be fun. So we have found, at least I think, this is certainly a problem. Hopefully it's the problem. So this was mounted under there like that. This is supposed to be tight on this shaft, but it comes right off because it's been broken. Well, someone must have tried to pound that pin in or something. Let me see, that is making a connection between black and blue. Well, boy, that might work. I was thinking I would just override. If I can get that tighter and be confident that that's going to stay there and work, I'll put it back. Yeah, that's all that needs to do, is make that connection. Actually, we should test this. If that's like that, my axles should show being locked. Here we are back here. Axle set. That was it. Okay, that's sweet. All right. Progress, I love it. This was very difficult to remove from the machine. This is upside down in a place that you can't see, you can barely reach. This is just the cover plate. And even if I'm trying to move the plate this way and this way as much as possible, there's not enough room there to get a socket on that. I mean, it's right up against the plate. So first I had to remove these rusty screws, take the plate off, then I could put a socket on the bolts and actually remove the part. I'm really lucky that the screws didn't strip. Yeah, that's just a stupid design, but nothing a belt grinder can't fix. I'll be right back. I just removed material from these two locations. Now there's plenty of room for my socket to get on that bolt. Let's just say this is not an ideal workspace. I hope you can see, because I can't. Oh man. Of course that pin won't come out. It's kind of in the way now. Holy moly. Did that work? Oh man, I had my eyes closed because there's no point in opening them. Just concentrating on what it felt like. Am I under the pin? I'm under the pin. It's already clicked. So that should be it. Okay, I hope to never have to do that again. Now let's see if we can figure out why these platform controls aren't working right. My guess would be there's corrosion causing this. This control, actually, this is even frozen up, and I can see rust there, whereas this one works well and this one works. And that's the one that isn't functioning right. So I'm going to take that off and see if I can maybe get it apart and clean it up. I think I also probably ought to go through each wire and check the connection. Whoa. Why is that not plugged in? You know what else I'm seeing here is these two look exactly the same. So if I flip those, that's going to tell me, is the problem in this? I'm going to show you down in there. It's just, looks like 4 bolts there. I got the bolts out and unplugged the wire, so it should just come right out of here now. Yeah. There's not much to it. This entire portion up here is mechanical. When you move the knob, all you're doing is moving that rack, which is then turning that pinion. There's a spring in there to make it return to center, and then this is, I just need to free that up so that that will go down in there. And the purpose of that is so that when you're up in the basket, if you bump it, it's not going to do anything. You have to pull up on that and then move it in order for it to work. So when you move it, all you are doing is turning that, and that is a potentiometer. It's a 500 ohm potentiometer that probably is pretty darn cheap. So I could get a new one of those and just solder it in. The rest of it is this, whatever the electronics are in here. I can see it looks like a bunch of MOSFETs there. It's all potted with epoxy, so it's not something that I can service or even look at. You know, and that means there's probably no corrosion or anything in there. So I worked on it for a while. I got it free. I can't get it all the way off because there's a pressed on sleeve down inside there, but I accomplished what I wanted. The spring isn't there anymore either. You know, actually looking at it, I could put a spring right there and probably make that work. So I always save things, and when I tear things apart, I save the springs. This is exactly what I need. Fits over the nut, and it's just long enough. Once screwed on, fixed. Love it. Here's the good one. There's the bad one. I thought I was going to have to actually flip them, but it looks like the wires will reach. So I can just plug this into that one. I can plug it in here. And now, of course, those controls are reversed, and I just need to be aware of that when I'm testing it out. All right, so this should lift me. Works perfect. And then this should lower me. I probably should have tested that before I got so high. Working beautifully. This is really annoying me. This bar is bent, and it wants to hit that. It needs to be bent back. Get it? Look at that. That's a beautiful thing. Engine speed switch does nothing. This is pump volume, and it's partially disconnected. I wonder if this thing will move faster if I reconnect that. Wheel speed. Creep. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through this whole thing. I'm going to disconnect and reconnect all the fittings, look for any areas of corrosion. Here, it looks like there's a bunch of things that are supposed to be grounded, and that looks very corroded to me. Bad grounds will cause goofy stuff. So I'm going to undo all these connections, clean them up, check all these wires, clean everything up, unplug all of these, and make sure everything looks good. A little tedious, will take me a little while. I'll bring you back and we'll see how it does. All of this looked good to me. A couple of these connections were a little bit loose, but probably okay. I cleaned up and deoxed those connections, and it didn't help a darn thing. Another important feature here that I didn't show you, let's start it up. Now say you get up here and your engine dies. Now you're up on this platform. How do you get down? Well, this has auxiliary power, and basically it's a little electric pump that runs off the battery that will run the hydraulic pump for a short period of time. The way you use it is you tell again, this is the lift, tell them you want to come back down, and then you hold the auxiliary power button. Now this will do all the functions, but like if you try to lift the boom with it, it's extremely slow. I can bring the telescope in with it. It's very slow, but it'll get you out of a bind if your engine dies while you're up on the lift. And now another way to get down is these valves here. Here's the procedure if you want to lower the platform because everything fails. The engine fails, the aux pump fails. You can still get down by opening these valves. The controls are all very jerky. Even though this one works, it might not be working correctly. You know, potentiometer is basically a variable resistor, and as you move it, the resistance should change to a maximum, and these are 500 ohms. So I'm going to check and see if I'm actually getting variable resistance or if it's just on or off, which is kind of how it seems to be, because maybe I want to order 3 of these. It's pretty jumpy. See, I'm steady pushing the handle and the ohm reading is not really changing. There should be a gradual change in resistance as I move the control, but it's not doing that. So now I've got an open circuit, and I shouldn't have an open circuit. And that would be why it doesn't work. I got a new potentiometer here. I actually got 3, and I had to wait, I think it was 4 days for these to arrive. Not the same brand, but the same specs. Should work fine. All I need to do is unsolder these wires, solder these in position, and I need to attach that gear to the front. Never been a very patient person. I hate waiting for parts to arrive and things like that. I think when I was younger, that was one of the biggest barriers to me being effective at doing stuff like this, is I would just get too impatient and get frustrated. It's funny to me now because I don't find it that hard to wait a little while. I know it'll come. Time seems to go fast as you get older, but I'm still a little jealous of you guys because you didn't have to wait at all to get that part. It'd be great if life worked that way. I need a part. Bam, there it is. See if I have something that'll fit that. I'm going to desolder these. Now it's red stripe, brown, black stripe. Don't let me put those together wrong. If you do, I'm going to be pissed. I don't want to mess up the shaft there, so I put Gorilla Tape on my vice grips. So I clean these up with a little sandpaper. This is soldering flux. Let's put that back on the machine and we'll see if it works. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, this entire control assembly, $1,000. This potentiometer was $20, plus some shipping. If I had just ordered one, it would have been $35 total, but I ordered 3, so basically I got them for like 25 bucks a piece. So I'm replacing another one of these potentiometers. This one is on the swing left and right. It's very jerky and kind of inconsistent in how it would work. So this is the old potentiometer. I've got it spun all the way in one direction, and we're just checking the ohms. So when I spin it back, we're going from 560, which is too much. And you can see it really jumps around a lot. Overload, oh, that was open for a second there. Now it's like bouncing around. Goes up to 1,000, open circuit. Now it's staying as an open, oh, there it goes. Yeah. Open again. Now suddenly it's 16 ohms. Look at that thing jumping around. So that's one of the old ones. Let's see what a brand new one does. So 5 ohms, 30 ohms, 70. Very consistent. You can see it's not giving me like an open circuit at any point. And I think the bouncing around that you're seeing is more the meter. But the ohms is just steadily increasing as it should. Linearly and consistently. There I got a quick open. But it's 500 ohms is the max. So there I'm all the way the other direction. So yeah, you can definitely see the difference in the two. What's going on inside here that made it fail? So it's a variable resistor. Oh, that's cool. All right. See this black thing right there? Black that goes all the way around? That is your resistor. It's a somewhat conductive, but not wholly conductive material. There's a gap there. So the resistance all the way from here to here is 500 ohms. And this is connected to this end. This is connected to this end. And if you check resistance across those, you get 500 ohms. But this is connected to this center, which this wiper's going along and supposed to be making contact. I bet you it's no longer making contact was the problem. That way, if it's in the middle, you're going to get half of the resistance, or 250 ohms, on both sides. If you're here, you're going to get 3/4 of the resistance on these two, and 1/4 of the resistance on these two. Yeah, so I'm thinking the problem was this piece that swipes along there just wore out. So let's start this thing up and see if the lift function works now. I haven't tested this yet. This is all legit. Control fixed. Now if I can just figure out this wiring. Actually everything from the ground control works. Many things on the platform do not. They don't seem to be related to each other, and it doesn't seem to just be connections or bad controls on the platform. I am hoping that at some point in here I'm going to find like a rat's nest and some chewed wires. That would really be the easiest and make the most sense, because there's just so many unrelated things that are all electrical. I've looked it over as best I can. The wires from the platform and pretty much everything congregate on this area. So I'm going to rip this apart. All right, so we've got lots of switches, relays. These are connections. I see a loose wire here and a loose wire there. For what it's worth, I don't really see any evidence that it was ever crimped to anything, so it's possible that those are just from options that aren't installed on this machine. No rat's nest. I reseated all the relays. I went through all these screws and tightened them down. I found a couple that were loose, and I reseated all these connections. I don't see any broken wires or anything that looks bad in here, so let's dig further. Okay, this is the line from the platform, and I've been able to follow it. There's enough slack that they all go through that hole back there, and of course that would be a suspicious place for a wire to wear through or something, but I've been able to follow and inspect them the whole way. The platform cable is perfect. Even these wires, they all look good. These are going over to the engine. So I don't see any smoking gun here, unfortunately. I realize that there's a bunch of screws down in here that you really can't access easily, and decided, all right, I'm going to start ripping wires out. I have to label them so that I can put them back in the right place and tighten these down. Well, I found several that were very loose and one that was disconnected entirely. So what I'm doing is, see, I'm labeling each wire as I take it off on the top row, then I can tighten up the bottom row. I haven't done this side yet. You can see like these wires block me from being able to get underneath and tighten the other ones. I'll go all along and do the whole until everything is tight and well connected, and then we'll test things again and see if I made any difference. I'm pretty hopeful here because I did find a totally loose wire. Did all that, put it back together, and it actually works. The axles are set, the controls work, even the other functions on the platform work. Holy sh**. Well, there's a million grease fittings on this thing. 1, 2, 3. You guys know red bud flowers are edible? Usually this time of year when I'm out, I'll pick some and just munch on them while I'm doing my stuff. Can you hear that over there? They want a new field. And they know I'm checking the fences for them. Good, big mama. Is that good stuff? 999,998. 999,999. So I'm pretty much ready to use this thing, but before I put my life on the line, I want to test it. In order to test it, I decided to do this. That is 490 pounds of ballast, mostly cinder blocks, and I am going to run this thing full height, full reach, all directions from the ground control, and we're going to see how it does. The slope to the ground right here is that way. That's the worst direction for me to be in. I can kind of bounce the lift by dropping. But even with the bouncing, that's pretty stable. I probably wouldn't like it if I was on the platform, but it's not going anywhere. Well, I'd say it passed. I know it's going to feel much more intimidating when you're in the basket getting bounced around, but that thing was nice and stable. With just my body weight, I am confident that I can put that thing wherever I want it, and it's not going to be a problem. Took that log down in sections like that because I didn't want to smash this dogwood tree down here. So rather than cut up from the bottom and have it fall straight down, I intentionally did that because I wanted it to swing towards the tree and stay away from that dogwood. So I got a lot of criticism in a previous video using this saw one-handed. This is a top handle arborist saw. It is made to be used one-handed or two. If you're not familiar with chainsaws and you're not comfortable using a saw like this, certainly don't use it one-handed, but people seem to think I was insane for doing that. That's how this saw is intended to be used. And man, being able to get up here safely and easily cut a limb like that, I've got a whole driveway full of things like that to work on, and wow, this thing's awesome. That is poison ivy, so I'm gonna avoid that. And that's a dead ash tree that's just gonna fall on the driveway at some point. Might as well get it now while I'm here. I'm in a sea of poison ivy over here. I think I'll leave it at that because it's got poison ivy. I don't really want to get it. So this limb right here has always been a pain. It's coming down so far that I've never been able to reach the upper portion of it. There's also one behind it. Yeah, right there is dead, and it's just gonna fall on the driveway soon. So, man, it's gonna be a piece of cake with this thing, but it was really hard any other way. He's gonna watch. Or she. That's a she. Those are my neighbor's cows. This looks like a good place to go up. There, I'm on a nice level spot. Let's get up above this tree line, have a look around. Power lines right there. I won't go anywhere near those. They say you're supposed to not go within 10 feet. I'll make it more like 50. Right now, those are a couple hundred feet away. That gets intimidating quickly. Man, how tall are these trees? Wow. That is full height. Holy crap. Not a real big fan of the swaying. It's almost like a drone shot, but it's on my head. All right, battery's about to die. Let's head back down. When you're straight up in the air like that, I've noticed the telescope jerks as you're coming down, and it's fairly disconcerting. So I'm taking the boom down a little bit. It's like it gets in a harmonic and it just starts bouncing. Like now it's going fine. You wonder why this thing's so heavy. That's 2-inch plate that makes up the entire side on both sides. And then they've put in these chunks of 3-inch. And then this is a 6x6 piece of steel. Those on both sides. Oh, look at that. This side it's 2 3-inchers. This side it's a 6-incher. And they're just putting those in for ballast. And here's the other side with huge chunks of steel making more ballast. Much of the steel on this machine is large enough that it would not need to be recycled. It could be used as is. The huge pieces of 2-inch plate, the 6-inch chunks, the large beams on the boom. This thing weighs 32,000 pounds, and the vast majority of that is steel. It also has a significant amount of copper in it. What I'm getting at is I think I could scrap this machine for $5,000 pretty easily. So what do you think I paid for it? Well, I'm going to be really interested to hear what people say. Leave a comment before you listen to my answer. I had the guy deliver it to me for $8,000 total. I feel like I got a screaming deal on this thing. What do you think? I also think there's a lot of older lifts like this that don't have much of a market for them. Companies don't want them because they're old and they're very hard to move, weighing so much. So it's perfect for someone like me that wants to keep it in one spot. But when the guy puts it up for sale, there's so few people interested, you can get it for a really good price. For me, this lift is going to pay for itself very quickly. I have multiple buildings to paint, my house, my shop, a barn, and I have other tree work to do. All of these things would cost far more than $8,000 if I hired someone else to do it. And this is going to make them all very easy and reasonable for me to do myself. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.